Well, let's get started. Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to have you on the call this morning, evening, or afternoon. I keep forgetting what time it is all over the world. We're excited to have you here and for our first community call for NGINX Unit. So I am Hannah Willett. I am the community manager for NGINX, and NGINX Unit is one of the projects at NGINX that is closest to my heart. And I'm excited for the core team to introduce themselves too. Timo. Who are you?
Sure, of course. Hello, everyone. Yeah, pretty excited to be here. My name is Timo Stark. I'm the poster of the unit getting started tutorials on YouTube, and was, I think, one of the first production unit users back in the days when unit just was released. And now I have the honor and pleasure to work full-time on NGINX unit. So I'm pretty proud to be here with all of you and spend the next 60 minutes.
Thanks, Timo. And hi, this is Liam. I work on various open source projects from a kind of project management perspective here at NGINX. I've been doing that for quite a number of years, but most excited to be able to spend, not all my time, but a lot of my time on this great project unit. So with that, Hannah, I'll hand it back to you to get us started.
Awesome. So we're going to be in this room together for the next 90 minutes. If you need to drop off, we totally understand. You can find us on GitHub or the community Slack. I'll drop links in the chat in a minute for those. And we're going to have a healthy Q&A discussion at the end. You'll see that as agenda item number 5. So you can drop your questions in the chat in advance, and we have the core team here to introduce themselves as well and to answer some thought that's come up. And make sure to save some questions for the end too, or your discussion topics for us to get through. Yeah. So core team, if you want to introduce yourself in the chat, I'm sure everyone would love to put some name and faces together to the project. And everyone else would love to hear where you're from, what you do with NGINX Unit, or any other fun fact you want to share about yourself. Yeah. All right, community news is the first thing we'll cover. Just up to date on NGINX Unit, what's been going on. We'll then move into new features, and so we'll kind of go over what's been coming out, and as well as go into what's going to come out in the future with the roadmap and direction, followed by an open discussion. So let's jump into community news. Awesome. So NGINX Unit has been growing steadily in popularity. You might see here we have almost 3,000 GitHub stars at this point, especially in the last 18 months or so, we've seen a rise in that. We have 28 contributors throughout the years at this point, and if you're listening, maybe you'll be the next one. We have almost or over 1,500 unique network downloads with Unit per month. And so that is, each network downloading. Yeah. Awesome. We also want to celebrate a new contributor, Sino Driver or Sino Driver, not sure how to pronounce your username. Thank you so much. We appreciate your contributions and hope you can make some more in the future. We also want to introduce an exciting community project based on NGINX Unit, Project Tetsuo. And we have the wonderful creators on the call here to say a couple of words. Scott, do you want to chime in about Project Tetsuo?
Hey, everyone. I'll just turn my video on. Hey, everyone. So Project Tetsuo is a bit of fun thing that Shane and I are doing. We're using Unit as the underlying base to reimagine serverless. The whole idea with Project Tetsuo is really, I want to deploy code, not containers. So we've got like a really rudimentary working concept at the moment, and we're looking to recruit developers. We like developers. And the second thing is really looking at expanding the remit of deploying serverless, right? And making it faster. And to put it in context, if I do a container build and I put Tetsuo next to it, which is deploying to unit, I can deploy with one command an entire application in less time than it takes me to build a container image. And that's why we're doing it. And we're a little bit crazy. We know it, but if you're crazy too, we'd love to have you on board.
Love it. I think we're all a certain level of crazy here. Thanks so much. So we have a couple events coming up. Oh, and I'm realizing that I'm going to have to drop that date in the chat, or maybe Stefan can for me. But we have an NGINX meetup in Berlin this month here in June. So I'll drop that into the chat here. If you're on meetup.com, we have groups around the world and host events regularly. Speaking of around the world, the next big event we'll go to is the Linux Foundation Open Source Summit in Bilbao, Spain. That's the 3rd week of September. The NGINX Unit team will be there to discuss Unit and other NGINX projects, and we'll have a booth where you can find us. Excitingly, we also have wonderful Unit stickers and swag you could catch and get as well. So we hope that you find us there. And there's been an ongoing survey, developer survey for NGINX Unit. So thank you if you've filled it out already. And if you haven't, we would love to hear your thoughts. And Liam is going to share some of those survey results with us.
Thanks, Hannah. Okay, so I've got just 2 slides. I didn't want to like hit everyone with the whole thing, but hope we can share more details later by GitHub. This has only been running for a short time, so we got 21 responses since we started sharing this more widely, but it's already been like really interesting to see a little bit more information about not just who's using Unit or how often Unit is used, but like exactly how. So this is what I thought was the most interesting sort of points to share over the next couple of slides. So first of all, which of Unit features are you using? So we're pleased and not surprised to see that running application code, it's really Unit's reason to exist. So that's way at the top, 37%. But in my opinion, the great thing about Unit is that it doesn't do more than one thing at the same time. So serving static files being the next most used feature, and of course, put those 2 combination, you've got yourself a full web stack. TLS, pleased to see that being used more and more in Unit. I mean, we're very often deployed like behind something that's handling TLS, but Unit can do that too. So I'm pleased to see generally all of the features being used to a certain degree, and the ones that we put the most effort in are most used. So that sort of validates the way we're looking at Unit going forwards. In terms of languages, we know that Unit is the most valuable when we are simplifying the stack and we're taking layers out. So for that reason, PHP, Python, theoretically Ruby, but there's not a lot of that going on, not a lot of Java going on. So we have a number of modules, but I think just given the popularity of languages where they are for building web apps, no surprise to see PHP and Python basically vying for the top spot here. Golang was a pleasant surprise to see that used so commonly with Unit as well. So great data. Clearly, this is a small sample size, so we'll hope to get more and keep an eye on this too. It's really interesting when we look at the download or the access logs from our software repo in terms of like how often different modules are actually downloaded. It's a lot more evenly spread, and so I think what we have here really helps take out that automation layer that just pumps everything up. Because actually someone is downloading Java a lot, but so far nobody's showing up and saying, yeah, I'm using it. All right. I wanted to look at the sort of the more free-form questions. So on this slide, like what's missing, what's annoying, what's good about Unit? Let's run through that. So firstly, let me talk about people's favorite things. Nice to have the positive. So pleasantly surprised here to see ease of configuration, multiple applications. These are the kind of words that are throwing up frequently. Lightweight, Docker, lots of languages. This is exactly what we want to see with what the value that we want to bring with the Unit project. Looking at what's most frustrating. This is always every time someone says they like the configuration, someone else doesn't like it. So that's a little bit Marmite, as we say in the UK, or kind of love-hate thing. I think partly this is related to CLI use and configuration files and writing JSON by hand, all of which are not maybe the most pleasant things, but it's good to see the kind of the feedback. Also good to see kind of notes about logging, debug logging, log formats. It seems that you can't have enough flexibility around what to log and where those logs should go. And then in terms of what's missing from Unit, and I hope we'll cover some more of this when we get to the kind of what's planned for the future. First thing I notice here is gzip compression, more logging, route matching. Actually, we did that, so hopefully that's an old response. And then headers in responses and that kind of stuff. So I do look at every single response that we get in its full entirety, not just these sort of word cloud sound bites, but I think these do represent pretty well the kind of feedback that we've been getting recently, and is directly informing what we're working on for the coming releases. So that's really all I wanted to cover on Developer Survey, and it's another opportunity for me to suggest that if you haven't taken it, I'd love to get your feedback. Just put the link there in the chat. So save that for later. It's a 5-6 minute, but try and keep it light. And I hope that when we get a good response size, we'll be able to share like a complete summary of the information. Okay, so let's move on from the developer survey. And the next item we wanted to talk about was just a roundup of the features that we've shipped in the last 6 months or so, in the last sort of 2 major releases. So that's 1.29 and 1.30. So I just wanted to sort of cover up everything in this, not everything, but the headlines, shall we say. And then I'll hand over to Timo and he'll actually show you what some of these new things look like to use. So first up, URI rewrite. This has been requested, of course, for a long time. It's such a big thing in the NGINX main project. Request comes in for /foo. I want to change it to /bar. I want to do something that, I want to put something on the end, take something off the beginning, put something in the middle, fold it all to lowercase, whatever you need to do to make your application or your website work. We want to be able to solve those problems in Unit. And frankly, if we feel that you have to deploy a reverse proxy in front of Unit in order to make Unit work properly, we've failed. We're not ready yet. We need to work on that stuff. So that's a lot of what drives the prioritization of what we're working on. Next, and this is a big feature contributed by Jidao, who we have on the call, is to basically allow JavaScript to be used inside Unit configuration. So if you have a value of foo, and now have that value evaluated through a JavaScript expression or reference a whole function. And so Timo will show that too. But so being able to basically write JavaScript to do things Unit doesn't do yet is quite amazing. If you need to write your own request router, write it in JavaScript if you need it. Right? So and then you just imagine combining this with the rewrite rules. You've got the whole power of JavaScript rather than have to write lots of hacky regular expressions, which I know is a struggle for me. Something that's been a focus of Andrew, who's also on the call, has been to make more things available on a per application basis. So Unit's great at running web application. When you're running more than one, you might want some fine-grained control over application A, application B. So to that extent, you can now isolate them even further by defining C groups per application. And you can control the outputs of the applications. So you can basically redirect their app standard output, standard error, to a specific file rather than no file or sharing a file. And you can, which means you can also quieten some applications and make others more verbose if you want them to. If, for example, you are moving some Java apps from Tomcat over to Unit, you can sort of replicate the way that Tomcat logs by default, adding that configuration. So that's nice to have, and that'll continue to be a theme of giving fine-grained control on a per application basis. Small thing, but often asked for, is when we send back the Unit header and the server. let's not have the version. So we do want to highlight that Unit is a thing and people are using Unit. It's an open source project and it's important for us to be able to track its adoption and its usage. But in production, we don't need to give away the version number and potentially any sort of security issues that might highlight. So if you're familiar with the server tokens configurations for Apache or NGINX, similar thing is here. And then something that Alex worked on, Alex is also on the call, is router diagnostics, or logging what the router does. So if you ever had tried to set up a route, especially if you've got like multiple named routes and maybe you're jumping between them, or maybe you don't get what you expected and you need to understand what the heck is going on, you can now get a nice debug output in the unit log file, tell you what's happening. I think Timo is going to cover this one as well. And finally, not a feature in the unit daemon itself, but a companion tool, simple CLI. It's a bash script. It's a wrapper to curl. So if you've ever got annoyed typing curl -- unix -- socket blah 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 -x put and all the rest of it, this will save your fingers a lot of typing and integrates nicely into various configuration workflows, especially if you like driving things from a command line. Okay, they're the headlines. I think now's a good point for me to hand it over to Timo, and we'll see, I think, a good chunk of this in the demo, right, Timo?
Sure, of course. Thanks, Liam. So yeah, we have heard a lot of exciting news about the latest, or the last two releases, 129 and 130. Pretty happy about it. And yeah, let me give you a little bit of a short demo, the next 20 minutes, basically about those features. First things first, I'm very excited to spread the news and share the news that NGINX Unit is now one of the official Docker images. What does it mean to be an official Docker image? It's like the all-known, well-known command of just do docker run nginx. If you're a Docker official image, you can skip the vendor part before the slash. So it would be this. And with Unit, it was like this. And now we are an official Docker image. So what you can do is simply do docker run a unit. And that's what we're going to do. Use a random port, then run in background and then do unit. So that should work. So let's see, what do we have? So unit is up and running. And one of the new features, beside of being an official Docker image, is that we have now a hello world page in our unit Docker container. So it can be used simply in a same way most of our users use NGINX, just to deploy it somewhere and see if the stack is working properly. When we do something like, I will use the tool Liam introduced me today. If we do something like this and type it correctly, you will see we'll get an hello world page, and this works just super well in the browser. Nice and shiny HTML. What was that? Localhost 32772 was that? Yeah. So that means that's one of the major changes inside of our Docker image, that we have now a default hello world page. So that means you can simply start unit and it will listen internally on port 80 with a default configuration if no configuration is present on startup, and then you can basically use unit to do the same thing you can do with NGINX today and see the nice page here. So that is the official Docker image part. So make sure you check it out. All you have to do is do docker run and then unit, and make sure you go to the Docker Hub and check out our latest tags. We have different images for all the different languages. That's nothing super new. That's just now under an official Docker flag. But that's not all. I mean, this is exciting, but this is not why we're basically all here. We are waiting for the cool and very, very new features to be presented, and that's what I'm absolutely happy about. Two things, or basically three things. The Unit C, the CLI, we do ship with our unit packages, the URI rewrite feature, and the JavaScript implementation, and some more settings. So basically, technically, we are talking about 4 different things. But let's use the Unit C thing first to display the current configuration. So as I said, Unit C is the command. It's shipped with the packages and populated to user bin. So it should be available on your system like this. And what we can do basically is type just unit C/config, and Unit C automatically detects if unit is up and running, where's the control socket, is it a socket, is it a port? So that's all magic inside the script. And then /config will print our current demo getting started configuration, a listener, a static file share, localhost port 8090. So let's do HTTP localhost port 8090. And we do see the very, very interesting welcome HTML file. So nothing new here. The cool thing is that Unit C now is my way to display the configuration, which is totally fine. But that's not all. I mean, that's great, but just to display configuration, that's not super helpful. Another thing we can do is we can populate configuration. So this is the init configuration, and the same configuration I do have here in my init.json file. So when I do a cat on this, oh, that's empty now. So I can apply this configuration file to unit as well, which then would basically apply it here. Let me do a little thing here, conf.json into init1.json, because I've used the new edit feature. Init1.json, so that's a demo got. Now we have now that's the configuration. Okay, so let's use Unit C to upload this. And all we have to do basically is do the init1.json to /config. And that's the reconfiguration is done. And then when we do Unit C/config, magic, we'll see the same configuration, because that nothing really changed, but you see reconfiguration done. So Unit C can be used to upload configuration as well. And a very, very, very hot feature that is like totally new, like it's not even 2 hours old. The commit on GitHub was 60 minutes ago. We have now an edit option that we can use. So you can type Unit C edit/config to live edit your configuration in a desired editor. This is Nano. You can predefine Vim or Vim or whatever you can think of to do changes in your configuration, and then change it, and Unit C will then automatically upload the changed file to unit again. So if you want to do some, and this is what we are going to do in the next 15 minutes as well, just to play a little bit around with that. Okay, good. So that is Unit C. Next feature I would like to introduce is the application, or the rewrite feature, basically. And the rewrite feature is something that works inside of the router. So what we do is we do config. I like it a little bit easier. So we just would like to change basically the routes. Routes are an array of different route objects. So what we do basically here is we define a new route object into then the rewrite. So a route object is basically an object that contains a match object if you would like to match something, and it contains an action object that is the actual rewrite. So let's say we put on the example, we take on the example from Liam, saying we would like to match a URI that is /foo something which is, and then we would like to rewrite foo into let's say demo. We rewrite foo to demo. And then after the rewrite, we would like to tell unit what to do with it. And we say, just take the thing through the router once more, and then try to find the appropriate action for this. So foo comes in, we rewrite foo with demo, and then we tell unit to go through the router again. So we save this, reconfiguration done. So now when we do the same thing, localhost port 8090, we see welcome, which is then fine because we have the, in here, we do have demo, and in demo, we have the welcome. Let me change that to test one, fine. So then you can see that this is working. Another setting we have introduced with URI rewrite to make sure that this is working is log output for the unit router. So that means if we do something like this to the unit log, we cannot really see what the router actually did while rewriting the requests. So this is something we can change. We can say in settings, there is a new feature that is called log route true.
Hey,
And
Timo,
the log, yep,
you want to make that rewrite /demo before you save?
yep.
You need a slash there, yeah.
So reconfiguration done. So now when we do the same curl again, or the same HTTP 8090 again, and then do the unit log, we can see, oh, now I see what's wrong. We match foo. That's the thing. So let's do foo. And foo then will, and when we check the log, we'll see that it receives the request to foo. Then we select the foo route that we have configured. Then we rewrite it to demo. And then we select basically the route again, and then we can serve the static share. Okay, so this is basically a simple example of how we can rewrite static resources on unit with this. Another interesting use case is if we would like to do it more dynamic, like remove parts of the URI or append it with this or other things. And that's the point where NJS comes into play. NJS is the NGINX implementation of the JavaScript runtime that works in NGINX already. And we have ported this one to unit, so we can now use NJS on unit as well. And to make this a thing, we can basically put it here in the rewrite in something that's called a template literal in JavaScript. So basically all we have to do is to put those special backticks in here, and then we can tell unit, okay, do something like from the URI, which is the current request URI, subtract like the first 4 characters. If we would like to do foo, we would like to subtract foo from it. And then after that, we would like to take anything that comes after foo and try to find an appropriate route and basically take then the action. So this is then the JavaScript syntax saying, okay, we do this template literal and then URI substring 4, and then save it again. Reconfiguration done. And let me see. Works, okay. Now when we do foo and demo, we can see we have foo and demo, and now let's see what the router log is saying. It basically says, okay, we have the request line foo demo. We selected the route 0 because foo matches, and then we rewrite or we rewritten the URI to /demo because that's what the JavaScript told us to remove the first 4 characters, which is then foo. And then we go into the router again, and then we match the route number 1, and we selected this one, and that's why we can see here the test demo 1. And this is, to me, the absolutely most interesting and important thing, that we can extend this with JavaScript to basically fit any use case you want. That means you can write your rewrite rules in this case in JavaScript, no matter how complex they will be. And now you may say, okay, this is fine, but what if I put an if here or in regex, or if I would like to select a couple of substrings from an array, whatever, does this blow up my whole configuration, my whole JSON file? That could be the case. And for this reason, we have also the possibility to use something that's called a module. And it's basically a JavaScript file you can upload to Unit and then just call a function from inside the Unit configuration. Already prepared some JavaScript for us. That's timo2.js. And let me get rid of this real quick and explain what the syntax is. So first of all, we create a global object. This is Timo. We export it, and that makes it available later to the Unit configuration. And then we define a function. In this case, it's rewrite. You can name that function in any way you want. And that is a function, and it takes the URI as an import, and then it does the same thing here that we basically did in our demo, but in an external JavaScript file. So then we save this, and after that we have to basically upload this to Unit to tell Unit, hey, okay, this is a JavaScript file, and to do this we use the Unit C, and then we do this and upload the JavaScript file to a new endpoint we have created that's called JS modules. And this is the module name, in this case, Timo. All right, so in this case, it's already there. So let's see, we do Unit C / and then JS modules. We can see we have Timo, and it's basically the same code. We can delete it as well. Or just upload it with 3, and then we have uploaded it to Unit. And what you can see here now is I have basically 3 different JavaScript modules enabled: Timo2, Timo, and Timo3. So they are uploaded, but to make use of them, we have to explicitly enable them inside of our configuration. So that means when we do our Unit C config, we can see that inside of the settings, the JS module is empty. And this is the most important part. It is an array, so that means you can enable 1 or 5 or 10 different JavaScript modules. And in this case, let's use our new created one, which is Timo3. So we do this, we save it, reconfiguration done. Good. So that means we have uploaded the JavaScript code, so Unit knows what it is, and we have enabled the module and exported it to Unit. Next step is then to basically go inside the Unit configuration in the routes and change this inline function to be the actual function call. So the module we exported is then Timo, and then we say rewrite URI, and that will call the rewrite function and use URI as an import. Beside of your
3.
this is the question, because the export is Timo, and now I'm curious what counts, the export or the name of the module in the configuration.
Let's find out.
That's it. That's a demo god. Let's see. The URI is one thing. We can use cookies, headers, host name, remote address, and not all variables we support on Unit can be used right now, but we have a good documentation on the website. But the most commonly used are available. All right, so we have changed that. Let's see what will happen if we do this. If Timo3 is the module name. It did not try. That looks good. That looks good. So that's how it should be. So that means we have the module from in the config settings, JS module. The module name has to be used here, and then we use the function we have basically introduced inside our JavaScript file, which is rewrite, and then we use the URI. And with this syntax, we can basically write as many complex rules we want and still have a very nice, small, easy to handle configuration, and all the heavy lifting JavaScript code is in external files. Okay. So let me just cover what we just said basically. Rewrite works with static paths like foo to bar. That's what we saw. You can use inline functions if you don't want to use the JS modules, if that is too much of an effort, because you really need a very simple rewrite rule that fits in a one-liner. Feel free to do it. If it's a more complex situation, you should think about using our NJS modules, upload the JavaScript file, enable the module in JS modules, and you can use it here to invoke a function you have to find inside of the JavaScript code. If you would like to see what the router is basically doing while processing a request, make sure you enable the log route setting that was introduced in the last release, that you can basically debug or see what steps the router took to process your request. And this is basically all I wanted to share with you. And I'm pretty happy to jump now on the chat and answer all the questions, if any, while Liam is jumping on the roadmap items.
Great demo, Timo. Scott has a question in the chat. Why don't we take one now while I'll segue over to the roadmap.
Sure. Let me find the question.
Yeah, I got it here. At what point are these loaded off disk into memory, and are there any constraints around this? Presume Scott's asking about the JavaScript modules themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, it's similar to certificates, Scott. It's basically, I wouldn't necessarily say a copy of the idea handling certificates with Unit, but when it comes to loading files or loading JavaScript code, it works the same way we work with certificates. So we have them in a state, in the Unit state. So that means they're not lost while restarting Unit or rebooting your instance, but they will be loaded into memory while we boot up Unit.
Perfect. Okay, let me take over the share, and we will look at what's next. So no more. Well, less slides from me now. So I just go straight to our GitHub project and talk about the roadmap here. I'll drop a link to this in the chat when I'm back out of sharing mode. Okay, I can do it. So if you want to follow along at home. This is linked to from our unit.nginx.org homepage, by the way. It's not the most obvious thing to scan for, but it is there. So let's start with kind of work that we've planned to do or started looking at, or there's some initial R&D happening on, and we're spending real cycles right now thinking or doing. First up, Alex is working on compression of responses, so specifically GZIP. This, I think, if you go to our GitHub issues and look for open items, sort by reactions, this is the number one. So we've had lots of thumbs up on this one, and there's sort of active R&D in progress here. So the idea being, if you're sharing a static file, if you're proxying upstream, if you're passing to an application, or anything else, that response will be compressed on the fly, asynchronously in chunks, just like NGINX would do it. And if you ask for gzip encoding, that's what you'll get on the response. So another step, towards making Unit sort of be able to face production traffic, right? So lots of work to do there, but it's underway. The next thing is about controlling response headers. So there's actually multiple use cases in here, and this feature is likely to take multiple iterations. So we can think about adding response headers directly. So imagine cross-site scripting, cause responses, setting cache control headers where the application doesn't, or you want to override it. Modifying cookies when they come back, removing things like X-powered by headers from your PHP framework or whatever it might be. So there's net new headers, modifying headers, removing headers. We want to look at that in one go and not have sort of special cases for each of those. Before we get to that, however, it's important that we actually have variables that contain the response headers so that we can log them. And then have them as things that can be manipulated so that response headers can be changed. And so that's why actually right now in development is that we're working on having headers for variables, for the response headers that are coming back. So that's why that's like a precursor, and then that will help us flesh out the whole controlling response headers. Also planned, but a little bit further out right now, is pipeline of actions. So being able to chain applications together on the request flow so that you can run some custom auth in Golang and then pass it to your PHP app, or vice versa, or whatever. And be able to basically move the headers and the body along a chain of applications that Unit's running, each of which being isolated if you want. And we think being able to layer applications up like this is means you can write your own features if you want. JWT authentication, we don't have that yet in Unit, and you can find someone else wrote it in Node or Python or whatever. You can basically pull that in and use it in front of your application. Then there's more stuff with regular expressions that we're also, we know is important. For the time being, we can do a lot of stuff now with JavaScript. And by the way, the JavaScript is really fast. Especially in rewrite cases, in my sort of low quality testing, they can get very good. The impact on latency is very, very small. What's most exciting, and probably where the most effort's going to go in the next few months, is on WebAssembly. So this is our headline push for really, for the rest of this calendar year, is that we want to take the concept of server-side WebAssembly, so technology that started for running richer applications in the browser without JavaScript, having something that is a compile target for multiple applications, and taking the sort of inherent sandbox security protection and portability cross-platform to the server side. So that might be for more of a serverless type experience. It might be for running untrusted code that other people give you. It might be for some combination of those things where actually performance matters quite a lot, and you want to be able to get closer to native architecture performance. Now, this work is, we're in, let's say, call it prototype stage, and we hope to have something that's sort of experimental, shareable, in the coming weeks. And so we want to get that out there as early as possible because it's a really interesting space. And I think that if you imagine kind of Unit as an application runtime that can already isolate a bunch of applications, and when we have the action chaining pipeline, can take care of some sort of mundane stuff and then pass the confidential stuff through to the WebAssembly sandbox. I think that's quite a powerful combination, especially when you think the whole thing can be configured dynamically through the control API. So there's a lot of hype right now around server-side WebAssembly. We're following it closely, and it's something that's been on the radar for a good while, but now feels like the right time based on sort of the feedback we're getting, the expertise we have in the current core team, and just the pace of evolution right now for the whole WebAssembly landscape. It's a little bit overwhelming to get a good steer on it all. There's an awful lot of noise, but underneath it all, you've got a sandbox execution environment that wants to take in a byte stream and send back a byte stream. And the fact that that just maps so damn cleanly onto the HTTP request response flow means that that's basically our direction of travel. And we want to sort of light up that technology use case inside Unit and see where it can take us, and see where you can help take it. So that's what we're really excited about. We hope that there's something that you can start playing with soon, sort of see what it looks like to develop server-side WebAssembly applications that Unit can run. Obviously, the goal being that these are completely portable, right? And you can run them anywhere. So have that local dev experience and push it up to a serverless or an edge functions or a fast setup. That's what we want to be part of. What that looks like, if I switch back to the slide for a second, is this is the kind of the high level architecture of Unit as it is today. So the processes and the config. So let me orient you. So the main process is what you start with Unit D. It sets up the controller for config, and then it sets up the router for handling for applications, and then the router forks the application processes. What happens when a client request comes in is that HTTP context, the headers, the URI, the body, everything that comes along with the HTTP request is then packaged up into context inside Unit, passed over shared memory into the application, and then passed back. What we want to do with the WebAssembly module, basically have that client come in, hit the router, the context goes through to a WebAssembly language module, then that's converted into the byte stream on WebAssembly linear memory and goes back. So that the architecture is already really well suited to this, and we hope that we can do something that is nice and clean and lightweight and kind of follows all of the DNA, NGINX DNA, so to speak. So that is where we're heading. Hope we can talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but I think that covers everything I wanted to get to on the roadmap. Did I miss anything? These are the headlines. If I did miss anything, just stick it in the chat and we'll talk about it. But I think at this point, we can, Hannah, I can hand it back to you, and let me try this. Let me get a poll up and see what people think about the whole WebAssembly thing. Okay, responses are coming in. I'm not sure where we got to on the agenda now, Hannah. Help me out.
We have done, I think, pretty much everything but Q&A and discussion.
Nice.
Yeah. So Yeah, I love seeing this poll. I will share those results in just a minute. And it looks like we had a great first question for Q&A to kick us off. From Jason, we heard, at what point do you not use NGINX proper functionality in Unit and have NGINX in front of Unit? Anyone want to take a stab?
I can take it. I was just making sure I had a screen of this poll. Did I share it already? Have you seen it? Did the results go up?
Just press share.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. So yeah, 44% is the people that waiting to try it out. So that's what I was hoping for. It's more than I expected, honestly. So we clearly have a bunch of full-on technologists joining us. All right, so the question, it was from, I saw it earlier from Jason, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so when do you not use NGINX proper in functionality in Unit? Let me answer it this way, Jason, because I think what we typically see is people deploying NGINX in front of Unit, like totally recommended. We've got a how-to guide on that. NGINX as a reverse proxy has got you covered, or any other reverse proxy. So am I right in thinking, is the question, when do you stop doing that? Or if you have a choice, which tool do I use? Maybe you can.
Yeah, I think for me, like most of my projects are kind of self-contained. And so I don't really see a need to go beyond what the functionality is provided in Unit. But as you scale to bigger applications, where does it, I guess, what's the guidance on, you can do it in Unit, but maybe you should do it in front of Unit, whether you're scaling out or scaling up. And that just, is there general advice for that, or is it whatever suits your needs?
No, that's a great question. Thanks for clarifying. And the rule of thumb is, if you can do it in Unit, do it in Unit.
Right.
Because we really want to, at least the project vision is that we want Unit to be the place where you configure your application behavior, from port number through TLS through request routing, or up to the application runtime. So yeah, and everything in Unit is configured and designed and implemented to be solid, robust, with good failure mode at extreme scale, and be very reliable. So there's not really a reason that you would choose to put something in front if you could do it in Unit. TLS is one example where we have compression. That'll be another example. Same for controlling response headers. So we think our sort of ideal architecture actually is that you would, at scale, you'd have a layer 4 load balancer spreading load across multiple units, and Unit doing all the application level stuff. And so for the time being, if you need something more than that, and authentication or header control or compression are the main reasons that you need a layer 7 reverse proxy in front of Unit, then absolutely go for it. That's going to work just fine. So yeah, keep it simple. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to simplify the whole stack.
Perfect. Thank you.
Interesting. We have one more. Is NGINX taking part in defining the direction of WebAssembly?
We certainly have opinions. So yeah, so yes, we are. I think the short one is yes. The stuff in the works on that, and I think maybe as I sort of described our sort of what we think the initial architecture and vision is going to be for WebAssembly on Unit. That we want to make sure that the rest of the ecosystem is at least sees things the same way, or influences us, or we influence them. The one thing of note is that the Unit team over the years has now written language modules for 5 different programming languages, right? Java, Perl, Python, PHP, Ruby, and integrating directly with that application's runtime interface. And so kind of we know what a good one is, we know what's painful, and we've got exactly the same job to do now with WebAssembly. The only difference is there is no absolute concrete WebAssembly interface. There's lots of activity for sure, and lots of the activity we see is a little bit bigger and not as lightweight like it, or that we think suits the stack. And there's opportunity there to keep the core lightweight and have lots of other stuff around the edges. That's where we see us being able to sort of provide I think an educated opinion and an influence on that community.
Any more folks have some questions or discussion topics? While you think of them, Liam, softball here, but if people want to engage more with the Unit community, what's the best way to do so? I mean, they're here, so they found us somehow.
I think the two primary places are GitHub and the NGINX community Slack. So GitHub's an easy one to find. Let's make sure we get the link to the Slack in the chat, so it's clickable for folks. Thanks, Dave. There we go. Thanks for the softball. Very easy answers, and yeah, we've seen a lot more activity, as we saw with the stars in the last 12 months or so. We've seen a real uptick, and that's kind of that's not just stars. That's kind of everywhere, including issues. And there's a team of everyone's responsive on those. So that's a no-brainer place to start. Oh, I like Matthew's question.
Ah, yes, Matthew, that was actually a question we were going to turn around and ask everyone here about the frequency in which we should hold these calls. I wanted to volunteer everyone on this call for a daily stand-up at 8 a.m. Pacific to talk about Unit, but I was the only one that thought that was a great idea. So our other options are monthly or quarterly. We have a poll that we will bring up and everyone can vote, and that's what we'll do.
What a segue. Here's the poll.
Yeah.
Is it up?
It's up.
Cool. And while this is going, we want to make sure we alternate these times, right? So we did this for 8 a.m. Pacific to catch American folks. Most of the Unit team, all the Unit team, nearly all the Unit team is in Europe time zones, which I was joining from China. So we're actually able to cover the globe. So then what we want to do is, next time we'll set a different time of day, and then we'll see whether we can get away with 2 times or 3 times. Scott's smiling because he wants me to get up really early and do an Australia call. Cool. Let me end the poll there and share it up. So good spread, but yeah, every couple of months looks like a winner, and I think it's we should keep that in mind, especially if we're going to alternate. That means everyone would hopefully get a chance to attend. Yeah. A few times.
Maybe another last question from my side. Like crashing the polls right now. We had a couple of live streams after each release for a while, like for the like. I think we start with 127, but that would also be an option, because in my last live streams about the Unit releases, there was not really anybody instead of me, which is then I can then do just a recording and upload it to YouTube afterwards. But that would also be an option. Like if you're interested in this kind of community thing, then we can definitely do a quick live stream after release as well, if that's an interesting thing for you, or do some lessons learned hacking challenges where we try out new things, and if it's not working live, then it's not working. Then we have to find out a way of making it work or trying the next time. That's also possible. We just need the feedback that this is something the community is interested in.
Awesome. Well, if any questions come to mind for you later, GitHub and Community Slack are two fantastic places to ask them. I personally love the unit team on Slack because it's the highly engaged team that you will get a response. So it's a great place to join. And in the meantime, look out for the future invitations and calendar invites for this community call. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Before you go, one last reminder, the developer survey if you haven't, but yeah, just to echo Hannah's thoughts. Yeah, I think this has been a really successful call number 1. Can't wait to do call number 2 and bring more stuff. So in the meantime, why don't you yeah, keep an eye on our GitHub, and hopefully there'll be some interesting PRs and other issues and discussions. And if there's anything that's bugging you, we really want to hear about it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.